In order to complete the evolution STEM case, you'll need to log on to your Gizmo account, which can be found on explorelearning.com. Once you're logged in there, you should see this icon that looks like a chicken, like what you see on the screen right now, and that will allow you to launch the evolution STEM case. Once you have that launched, you will see your interactive screen, and you should see a button pop up that says click here when ready, or click when ready, just like what you see on the screen. Once you're logged in there and everything's going, you'll be clicking through this interactive animation, and you'll realize that you are going to be playing the role of a researcher for the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. And what you are exploring is this outbreak of bacteria called the CJ bacteria. You'll read through some patient information, and you'll realize that the common link between them is that they were both eating chicken that came from the same farm. And so what you're trying to figure out is, why was this bacteria in this chicken? Because the chickens are fed this medicine to keep them from getting the bacteria. The medicine, the antibiotic, would kill the bacteria. That's what it's supposed to do. But over time, this bacteria has apparently become resistant to this antibiotic that the chickens are fed. And so what you're supposed to do as the CDC researcher is figuring out, well, why is this CJ bacteria no longer being killed from this antibiotic that is put into the chicken food? Normally, the chickens eat the food. It contains that antibiotic. It kills the bacteria so that when people eat the chicken, they're not getting sick from the bacteria. But that's not happening anymore. For some reason, the bacteria is resistant to this antibiotic. It's not working anymore. And so this is the situation you're dealt with, and this is what you're trying to explore and figure out, well, what's happening here? So you'll look over the patient records, you'll look at some data, you'll look at some farm samples and look at some other data. Once you do that, you'll be able to move over to a section of the STEM case called the handbook. Once you're in the handbook section, you're going to be exploring some mechanisms that cause microevolution. You'll look at genetic drift. You'll look at natural selection. And then you'll also look at gene flow. So you'll work your way through the handbook exploring those ideas, those different things that can impact allele frequencies in a population. And then once you have worked through all of these sections of the handbook, you will get to a screen that says, congratulations, you've completed the evolution handbook. You are now ready to continue your investigation at Moneta Farm, which is the chicken farm. You can return to the handbook at any time to review the concepts. So once you see that screen, that's when you can click back to the case study, which is where you're exploring what happened to these people, why they get sick, why is this bacteria in the chickens not dying from the antibiotic. So once you're back in the case study section, you are now going to be forming a hypothesis. So you're going to figure out, do you think that the bacteria is becoming resistant to this antibiotic because of gene flow, genetic drift, or natural selection? And you'll see a box just like what you see on the screen right now. And you'll be able to type in a hypothesis that you will be able to revisit and edit later on as you're moving throughout the case study. So let's go back for a second here. So after you make your initial hypothesis, you will go through some experiments. You can see in yellow over there, it says experiment 1, experiment 2, and experiment 3. So each of the experiments matches up with one of the possible mechanisms that are causing evolution to occur. So gene flow, you'll do a gene flow experiment, you'll do a genetic drift experiment, and then you'll do a natural selection experiment. And as you do the experiments, you should be able to narrow down which one actually is causing the bacteria to be resistant to the antibiotic. And then once you do all the experiments, you'll reach your conclusion section and you'll be able to finalize your hypothesis. You'll change it if you want to, and then there's some final wrap-up questions. So once you get to this screen that says you've completed the evolution case, that is when you're done. Everything auto saves, so you don't need to worry about that on this case study on this Gizmo website. But I do just want to warn you that don't fall into the trap of clicking next, 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 and not really reading the information and focusing on what's happening in the experiments. Because if you're not understanding the experiments you're doing, once you get to the section where you do have to write your hypothesis, and once you get to the section where you do have to answer the conclusion questions, and they're short answer conclusion questions, you really need to make sure you understand what you did so that you can form good answers and write good, well thought out sentences. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know. Send me an email if you are completing this at home, and I will be able to help you.